Hey guys, it's Heather here with Underwater Panther. First of all, I just want to greatly appreciate all of the new subscribers. Thank you so very much for subscribing to my channel. I have been working on writing. I think I have 14 books or so done, so I've been diving extremely deep into astro-psychology for the last probably 8 years or so. I started in the world of fitness and nutrition and bodybuilding with my first business, the Mind Body Activation Performance. And then I got into the Paul Chek Institute, Holistic Lifestyle Coaching. And I did that for many, many years. And I didn't exactly know how to crack into people when it comes to the mental, emotional, and spiritual worlds. It all starts in the mind. And I got into meditation for a very long time. I started with guided meditation and didn't really know how to get into a person on this type of level. So I have decided to start my own niche here on YouTube with Astro-Psychology. I only know of one other person doing this, so I'm an Aquarian or INTJ mind Mercury. That is how I think, and so I'm very excited about this series, and I hope that you are enjoying this series as well. So thank you all very much to the new subscribers. This is going to be a lifelong journey. It's just endless with learning. I'm very aware that we are not on this planet for a long time, and I am creating this Underwater Panther business because I want to pass it on to the younger generations. I wanted something like this. I wanted to be able to buy books that would help me accelerate my learning process, and I have, hired many professional astrologers myself. I wanted to see how they were doing business and what they believed in. And so really my intention here is just to help others that are into this, allow them to buy a book that they can consume at their own pace with visuals. It's all organized. It's all very laid out. It's really great watching YouTube videos. I have done that for a very long time. I have tons and tons of playlists, but it doesn't hit. It doesn't hit like a physical book or an ebook. It just hits different. So I wanted to make videos along with my ebooks and have both the video and reading available to you. So I have done the first section on the NI hero, introverted intuition hero, psychologically. So I've broken down the ego into 4 sections. The first section I've already covered. It was the Saturn as the ruling planet of Aquarius, co-Uranus. I broke down introverted intuition hero, what that is, what is the hero function, what is introverted intuition. And the second section, I just released that a few days ago. This is a very long process. I edit my own videos, so it takes me a week to edit, almost like an hour and a half. I can edit 2 hours of video in a week. So this is a very long process, but I want it to be a very good presentation that also has visuals that goes along with my ebook. So I did the first section already. And then the second section, I described what exaltation was, as well as apparent cognitive function psychologically. So we have Neptune in exaltation for Aquarius, co-Mercury. I broke down what both of those represent. And then I broke down extroverted thinking, what that is, as well as the apparent cognitive function. That was section 2. So now we are getting into section 3. And so the child cognitive function and the inferior cognitive function, they are more unconscious to us. So the hero and the parent, we tend to be more conscious of those cognitive functions or energies astrologically within ourselves. So now we're getting into a deeper dive into the ego. You may be aware of it or you may not. So this is exciting for me as well, because the third section, we are covering the emotional world of an Aquarius or INTJ. So I will be breaking down what left field represents in astrology or detriment. So we call it left field or detriment. And then what the child cognitive function represents psychologically. And then we have the sun here astrologically, and then introverted feeling psychologically. So I am on page, I lost my page. Scrolling down. Oof, I'm past page 75 already. Good Lord, what page am I on? So I keep telling myself, as an Aquarius Mercury, I keep telling myself, oh, it's just going to take me a week. It's just going to take me a week. It's just going to take me a week. And it's like, I thought I was going to get this 200 plus page book done in a week. And I keep telling myself with each section that it's just going to be a week and then I'll release this book. So at this point, I think that each section is going to take a week. So I will probably finally launch this book in 2 weeks. I am going to make my videos tonight on section 3, and then it will take me a week of editing, and then next week I will be doing section 4. So it'll probably be 2 weeks before I finally launch this book. It is a lot bigger. I keep adding to it. I keep organizing it, editing it. Borderline thinking about having AI help me with like shorts on YouTube. Shorts seems to be like a very good strategy when you're trying to get views and subscribers. But I am extremely happy to see that I am getting more views on my longer video presentations here on YouTube. I am ecstatic. I will watch a 4-hour documentary. I have no problem with that myself with my attention span. If I'm really into something, I can spend obviously an entire week on studying something, or years. So I am extremely happy to see that these videos are getting more views on the longer form presentations. But I do want to try to integrate AI with helping me edit shorts, because this editing process is it's very time consuming. Anyways, so with all that aside, okay, this is like my 4th time trying to do this video. I've been interrupted by phone calls. My little one, she came in here and colored. So I'm just going to start all over. So here we are. We are in section 3. So first I will go into the astrological meanings, and then I will get into the psychological. So left or detriment. What is the left field or detriment? What does that mean? So when a planet is in the sign opposite the sign it rules, it is said to be in detriment, thus its action is weakened. When a planet is debilitated, away, or left field, it means it is at work and does not want to be there, but tries to work with the tools it has. It is uncomfortable and doesn't feel or look natural to yourself or others. So we are getting deeper into the ego. The ego is split off into 4 sections. I will have my key card on the screen so you can stare at this entire video, stare at it throughout the other videos. It really helps visually to put the pieces together, in my opinion. And I hope that you enjoy being able to have that key card. There's no one else out there. I think eventually I want to sell it. I want to get my own shop, my own merch, and I definitely want to sell these key cards as well as my ebooks. So this is something I will be doing for a very long time, but I do hope that you like the visuals. All right, anyway, planets in their rulership or their exaltation often represent energies within us that manifest with greater ease and confidence, and for which we subsequently receive applause or praise. While planets that are in their detriment or their fall often represent energies within us that manifest with greater challenge and sometimes self-doubt. Every sign has a manifestation of strengths and manifestation of challenges. Often when we are forced to work harder to achieve something, or we are forced to deal with a certain level of disappointment or delay, we are developing a kind of mental muscle or emotional or spiritual that helps us build character and ultimately contribute a gift of wisdom to the collective. Planets that are classically considered to be in their fall or their detriment are not bad necessarily. On the contrary, they have remarkable gifts to share and are indicative of qualities within ourselves that challenge the status quo. So, overall, the ego is not necessarily bad. We tend to work with our hero function the best, and then it becomes kind of like an autopilot thing. And then our parent function, it is our sense of responsibility. We tend to skip over that development because it is a pessimistic function and it takes more mental energy to use. So we do tend to loop between our hero and child cognitive function. Our child function is actually positive, so we have more conscious energy here. I will break that down in the psychological portion of this video. But I just want you to be aware of that. So astrologically, when you're studying into this astrologically, it seems to be a very negative thing. It's like left, detriment, it doesn't want to be here, we're unconscious of it, we don't work with it well. But don't just look at it as a negative thing. Whatever we have to work on, normally when we are older, this is where we find our greatest wisdom. So do be aware of that. All right, so what does the sun represent in astrology? The sun represents our purpose, vitality, creative power, heart of our being, inner authority, shining light, giving life, self-development, central purpose. So do keep in mind when I'm talking about what the sun is, this is going to be harder for an Aquarius or INTJ to embody, especially in our younger years. Now, we will be 20 years. Let's see, let me think here. Yeah, 20 years or so. I don't have my key card pulled up. Let me just pull that up real quick. Master key. What is it? 20. I was right. Okay. So the hero, we tend to develop that roughly between ages 1 and 12. Parent function, 12 to 20. Child function, ages 20 to 35. Inferior or fall function, ages 35 plus. So this is a lifetime of self-development. It takes a heck of a lot of inner work to become conscious of ourselves and realize what's truly going on. So with what I'm describing here, what the sun represents is rather difficult at first for an Aquarian. So the sun represents putting our vision into practice precision, not asking others to be yourself or validate you. The sun represents the core of our self-expression. This sign reveals how our light shines, makes us believe in ourselves. It determines how we create in terms of fun and experiencing pleasure to ourselves and others. Represents the breathless name, the joy of childhood and youth. It represents the father and children. Negatively, the sun may lead to egocentricity that can blind us to the interests and experiences of others. We may plow through on counterproductivity. We may be blind to our own achievements and our own best interests and accept failure too easily. As the sun puts forth light, so it brings forth life. This planet, also known as a luminary and a star, represents the self, one's personality and ego, the spirit, and what it is that makes the individual unique. It is our identity and our face to the world. The sun also speaks to creative ability and the power of the individual to meet the challenges of everyday life. One's natural father, husbands, and other male influences are ruled by the sun, as are children. So family is very tightly involved here. This is why our children take their father's name or identity. The sun's energy is a forceful one, and in its wake comes authority, the ability to lead, and an individual's essence or their core being. Through the will of this planet, we learn to manifest ourselves in the world. I'm going to take a quick drink. All right, so the sun in detriment. All right, so this can make an Aquarian not like to be the center of attention. It can make them feel misunderstood or overlooked, resist being seen, resist the future, break down life mechanistically, behind the scenes, or asserting broader perspectives scientifically, bridging science with spirituality. Every moment, even in ritual routine, it seems mundane. So I'm kind of going fast here, and I literally just wrote this section in earlier. I've been literally editing my book all day today. Today is Sunday. I've got some sunburn going on. I can definitely feel the toastiness. Yeah, so I was working outside in the sun on this book earlier, and I'm definitely a little fried. But, okay, so the sun in detriment. So the sun is the ruling planet of Leo. And Leos, you can picture like a campfire or like a candle here. The candle is lit, it's in your face, it's standing still, it wants to be seen. Leos love to be seen, they love attention, they love to hold the stage. It's kind of like, I don't even want to get into politics, not going to do it here. But because it's in detriment, it means it doesn't like to be here. It can really make Aquarians, this is where their introversion comes in. They don't like attention. They don't want to hold a big group. They prefer like one-on-one. They really feel misunderstood or overlooked. So like when they're talking, they can be talked over. They're not really good at holding attention at first in their lives. They can resist being seen. They tend to break down life mechanistically. It's a really difficult word. So it's like they're trying to break things. They're the scientist, and so they really can tend to overcomplicate things, especially with NI hero. So they're like not exactly in reality. They're like here, but they're not. And so they're always constantly analyzing everything, like overthinking, overanalyzing, trying to break every tiny little thing down. They're not just taking it as it is in the moment. They're living in the future. They're not really here, grounded in the moment. Everything seems to be mundane. It's like they have Saturn as a ruling planet. They have OCD like Capricorn. They can be have their little OCD rituals. I definitely have overcome quite a bit. I still wash my hands like crazy. But they still don't necessarily like routine. They like to be organized. It's like a constant, I have to organize to feel like I'm in control and on top of things. But in the same breath, like everything can feel so mundane. You get bored easily. They're like triple movement oriented in their heads. So it's like their brains are really quick, and it's like constantly thinking, overthinking, hard to ground in reality. Don't like mundane routine. They'd rather be studying and in their own NI world. Don't want to be seen as prideful. Fascinated with time, but don't really believe in time. I have such a hard time with time. Me and time don't get along, and that's exactly what I tell everyone. Like, me and time don't get along. Aquarians and Pisces both have the NISE going on, and so like the long-term memory storage isn't there. And so like long-term, if you're asking me about a timeline of events, I am just going to cringe And if you ask me, hey, do you want to go to this, whatever this weekend? I'm like, I just, maybe, don't lock me in, but maybe don't try to verbal contract me into going somewhere. Yeah, we just have a really difficult time with time. And let's see. Okay, so Aquarians can have, and I'm saying me because I have an Aquarian 11th house Mercury. That's my thinking, and my communication is Aquarian through and through. So there's a lot of anxiety and fear about not being in control. So Aquarians don't like surprises. If you're scheduling something or planning something, it all has to be like, let's talk about this first before we go and do something wild. So there's a lot of like anxiety and fear about the future, about events, about social interactions. There's a lot of issues going on there with Aquarius. They can be rigid and non-expressive. So the sun is all about expressing yourself. And so Aquarians, they're always building mind blocks. Like there always has to be space between an Aquarian and someone else. It's really hard to get into an Aquarian's mind or emotional world. And so there's always going to be walls there. They're introverted. And so it's really hard to just express. They're very strategic. So it's hard to be in the moment and express, especially emotionally, even logically. It's a thing, non-expression. Okay, so uncertain in identity and future, structured in time to ground themselves. So they overplan, for sure they can. It's, gosh, it's like I love and hate routine. Like I want to be prompt. I want to be on time. I'm very business. They're very entrepreneurial, very business. If they say they're going to do something, they're absolutely going to do it. And then you can get Aquarians where they schedule a whole year out. They're very in their calendars and their note taking, mind mapping, creating their task list. So they are structured as long as it has to do with money and their projects and their goals. That's the structure they enjoy. Yes. But it can also help them ground. Like I schedule my year out. Yeah, I'm one of those people. Like I used to bodybuild, and I literally used to weigh all of my food. I knew exactly what all my macros were, my micronutrients. I had my FitnessPal app. I weighed myself. I was insanely disciplined and strict in my nutrition, my dieting, my fitness routine. I logged every single set in with Jeffit. That's a good app. Jeffit. So I use a lot of apps to track things health-wise. Like I overdo myself. I did for 12 years straight. And now I'm just kind of like over. I burnt myself out on that. So like I no longer have those goals. And now I've like placed all of that into this business. And so I'm a little bit more relaxed with all of that, but that's a thing. All right. So intellectually moralizing, thinking everything is a big fake performance. Oh my goodness. So Aquarians, they're very performance based and they want to do a very good job. They want to master what they're doing. And I really do realize like the fakeness. It's not fakeness. It's like, I mean, it is to a degree. It's like you can't just, they're very blunt and direct. They don't beat around the bush. But there is so many blockages when expressing oneself. And that's just a part of being in a society and having hierarchies. It's a social dance. Like we're very, very aware of these social dance. I will put it that way. So it's a very long path to self-identity. And so they are all about character development and their maturity. I have worked extremely diligently on inner work, psychologically, emotionally, my own fitness goals. So that's a lifelong path to self-identity and self-confidence. Self-love and confidence may be difficult. They can always feel alienated and incongruent. They can alienate themselves. They can alienate others. They're always going to want to do something different. They don't fit in. They're not really exactly trying to fit in. But they do want to produce great historical works to garner applause and bragging rights. That can be a thing. Wanting to pass down a legacy. Afraid of being erased. So it is a haunting thing. I don't get along with time. I believe in you can jump timelines. I believe in you can like hit a wave in your life. There's just ebbs and flows in life. And I think Aquarians are very aware of like quantum mechanics and alternate realities and the far out things that a lot of people never really get into. But it's like, even with my videos and my ebooks, like I want to pass this information down. And I don't know, with my nurture, how I was raised, I'm all about legacy. I'm all about the next generations. I care so deeply about the planet, about humans, about animals, and just future generations. Like I'm very worried about the future, and that's definitely a thing too with Aquarians, with the time and the future thing, the anxiety of it all. All right, so the sun represents identity, self-expression, and vitality, while Aquarius tends to associate with collectivism, innovation, and detachment. The sun's focus on personal identity can clash with the Aquarian emphasis on community and humanitarian ideals. So this is where they can be used as a vessel. Aquarians are not aware of other people's intentions. They're only very extremely convicted in their own intentions, so they're very intentional with themselves, but they're not aware of other people's like intentions and motivations. Like, where is this person coming from? They can be used like Pisces. They can be a doormat. And Aquarians have a very huge social network normally. And Aquariuses are able to organize and create groups and humanitarian efforts, or musical. Like I had a whole nother YouTube channel where I was helping other people promote their music. I have a lot of musicians in my family. They have their own bands. They travel all over the United States, still to this day, actually. And I always would go to the shows and film the shows and then edit and make flyers. I just loved it. And that was something that I was very passionate about. My YouTube actually blew up, and then I deleted it all. Like, it's like ridiculous. But so yeah, they can definitely be used as a vessel. I didn't feel that at all. It was family and I wanted to. But the unaware Aquarians can definitely fall into that hole. Expression of energy. So in Leo, the sun shines brightly and confidently, emphasizing creativity and leadership. In Aquarius, the energy can feel more subdued or unconventional, as Aquarians often prioritize ideas over personal glory, which can make it harder for the sun's energy to manifest fully. Emotional distance. Aquarians tend to be more emotionally detached and intellectual. The sun's warmth and need for recognition may feel stifled in an environment that values independence and unconventional thinking or personal acknowledgement. So I have been told this in prior, I think probably one. I can't lie. Aquarians are very pragmatic and they're very independent. And they want to do things in their own certain way. And it's like, I can see how it would feel like, oh, you know, I'm trying to take all the glory or the personal credit for the projects I'm working on, or whatever the case may be. I can understand that. I can understand that now that I've studied into this more deeply. I can't help myself. I really can't help myself. I love working with other people, but there are just certain things, certain projects like this business that no one is going to take me off of this path. And so it can be kind of frustrating because not many people understand this stuff. I'm just giving you a personal example here. And it's like, I have to be independent in this, and I can't really exactly, you know, talk on this level with people in my everyday life, especially if they're not into this stuff and they're just like, what is she doing? Like, why is she taking time away from me to do this? And it's like, yeah, I can understand where people can think that that's like cold and not very, you know, Leos are all about, you know, the warmth and the let's do this activity together, let's have fun, let's play games, let's watch movies. It's like a very family, close knit, let's do everything together, hands on warmth. Aquarians are like triple whammied, quadruple whammied with all this colder feeling energy. So this is another reason why Aquarians can come across very emotionally detached and cold. And in all reality, I care so deeply about the collective conscious of this planet and each individual. Now, I've realized, like, in my little tagline on my YouTube channel, I put this everywhere. I don't have Instagram anymore. I don't do Facebook anymore. But also on my website and YouTube, I put in, I'm bridging science with spirituality. And I always thought that was the Piscean part of me, which, yes, it is, but also Aquarius part of me, where the scientists are just like, they're geeks. Like, they are geeking out by themselves. No one understands what the hell is going on with them, and they're, you know, they're just tinkering and geeking, and they're all by themselves, and they're just on this mission to figure out and break something down. And it's just a detached intellectual thing. It can be frustrating for other people. And yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about. Or if you're a cross watcher trying to understand your Aquarius and what the heck, why are they off in their own little world? Where are they floating? Are they in a hot air balloon somewhere? Who knows? Yeah, hopefully this is helping you understand them better. It's a collective goal at the end of the day. I've got a phone call. I will be right back. Okay, I've been interrupted once more. I am cracking open mom water. What's it say? 4.5% alcohol, lemon blueberry, mom water. It's healthy and relaxing at the same time. It's happening. Okay, so I am still in Detriment with the sun. Where was I? So Koreans tend to be more emotionally detached and intellectual. The sun's warmth and need for recognition may feel stifled in an environment that values independence and unconventional thinking over personal acknowledgement. So rebellion against authority is also a huge thing. Aquarius is known for its rebellious nature and desire to challenge the status quo. This can create tension with the sun's authoritative and sovereign qualities, leading to a conflict between individual desires and collective ideals. And I have always had a thing with authority, and I was never taught to question authority. That has been an innate thing. And I'm an Aries rising. I am Pisces ego, Venus, North Node, Capricorn moon, ISTJ, Capricorn ISTJ moon, Aries ESTP rising. So I always thought it was my Aries rising, which probably yes. But now I'm beginning to realize that it's really my Aquarian or INTJ Mercury thinking and communication. So I was never taught to question authority. I was raised strictly Catholic, and I took that very seriously up until my teenage years. And the biggest thing in my life where I really bucked against authority came when I tore my right hip in track. I was very competitive. I've lifted weights my entire life, played a whole bunch of sports, and I tore my right hip and went to the doctor, and they told me that I would need surgery. Now, I knew hardly anything about anything back in those days. It was my junior year in high school. I couldn't play any sports my senior year. It totally wrecked me physically, mentally, emotionally. It took me down a whole different path in life. But that was the moment in time that I said, no, I am not going to have surgery. I'm going to rehabilitate myself. And that was when my bucking against authority started. I was the same way in college. I just really started doing, I'm an intellectual. And so Aquarians are very intellectual. They're not academic necessarily. They absolutely love studying all things, all sources on their own terms. And so they're always going to innately, naturally, whether they were raised that way or not, question all of authority. And we're very aware of the hypocrisy. You know, if you're going to put yourself in a position of authority, you need to live that life through and through. That is my ultimate belief. And I'm always looking at authority and seeing how hypocritical they are, you know, the favoritism. I'm very, very serious when it comes to, if you're going to put yourself in a position of authority, you should be actually that. So you need to actually be that in your role, and I'm still going to always question. Aquarians are always going to question authority. All right, so section 3. Now we are moving into psychology. I am going to break down what the child cognitive function within the Aquarian ego represents, okay? So the child cognitive function is where our innocence is. It is the inner child of our soul, the heart of the matter. It is an optimistic function, so that means it has extremely lasting energy. We have a lot of energy here. And so we're starting to realize that, you know, in astrology, you're like, oh my gosh, it's in detriment. I am just so terrible at this function or these energies. And it's like, no, this is where your innocence is. It can be childish though if we're unconscious of this aspect of ourselves. And I think the greatest lesson I have learned with, you know, I never realized how actually, you know, Aquarians are they're a fixed sign, and so fixed. You're stubborn as F. I would almost say that they're more stubborn than Taurus. And the fixed signs are extremely stubborn. And so that can be frustrating for other people. They're pragmatic. Aquarians are pragmatic, so they're very independent in their decision making. And it just makes other people not feel a part of your life, a part of your decisions, a part of it's difficult because when you truly are working on a partnership, for example, it's like they want to be a part of your life. And it's like, yes, you can be a part of my life, but we're still individuals. We still have our own different hobbies. You know, we can dive into each other's hobbies if you want to. I think explaining, you know, understanding this more unconscious aspect of yourself of, yes, I'm very independent. I am very tunnel vision on my goals. I might not necessarily always check in with somebody when I'm making a decision on, you know, just whatever the case may be. Just understanding this aspect of yourself and then explaining that to somebody else, it's going to help in relationships, in all relationships, especially the older you get in serious relationships. I just side tangent. I never really realized how extremely stubborn and independent I am to this day on certain things. So just being aware of that, perhaps explaining that to somebody else, like, yes, I do love you, but this is something that I have worked on my entire life or however long. I am not going to give up on this goal. And, you know, just because we are still different individuals, that doesn't mean that I don't want to be with you. Or, you know, we have, you know, Koreans really understand that it's okay to have our own individual goals. Even in a relationship, you're going to have relationship goals, but you're also each kind of on your own path. It's like great if you can find somebody that's on the exact same path as you, but that's very uncommon. I extremely am happy and admire those that get with somebody that is on the same path. But when you're in this like very deep self development stuff, especially when you're getting into psychology and spiritual work, inner work, and emotional work, there's going to be not very many people on this path, and that is okay. Um, don't get sidetracked for the love of God. Don't get sidetracked. Stay on your path, but just explain, you know, this is who I am. I have my own goals, but we also can have relationship goals as well. And that doesn't mean I don't love you. So it can be so frustrating. All right, so back to the child cognitive function. We can get stuck in hero child loops because those are the first and easiest functions to use. And I will break that down here in a little bit. So the child cognitive function represents our liquid luck, connection with divinity. The child function creates miracles. It just needs recognition and compliments so that we can be as optimistic as possible here. And this is where we find our inner joy, kind of like our subconscious moon sign. So the quotation for the introverted feeling child cognitive function for an Aquarian is, I'm childish with what I feel. That is the quotation. So, I don't know why that part is in here. I'm going to delete that. Glad I read that over again. I might do a little bit of editing as I go through here. I'm on page 99 of my ebook right now, and I'm only in the child cognitive function, so it's definitely turning out to be longer than I thought. All right, so the child function development is normally used prior to the parent function, but in a more childish way rather than childlike. So we're striving for childlike innocence and curiosity here, not being childish. And then we roughly start developing this function between ages 20 and 35. We tend to either double down on our child function or get stuck in hero-child loops due to these functions being optimistic or easier to use with less energy expenditure. Hero-child loops can cause extreme introversion or extroversion, which it is introversion in this case with NI and TI, or I mean FI, NI-FI loop, so introversion, because it feels like a team-up situation due to having the same orientation. So NI-FI team up, and we will tend to use these functions until eventually we will spiral out of control and hit rock bottom. So we will develop our hero function first and then our child function normally after that, and then we will just loop in our, you know, Aquarians, they loop in their introversion. And we do tend to double down on our child function as well. So many people have to hit rock bottom before they're able to admit that doubling down on the child function or being stuck in the hero-child loop is actually unhealthy and defeating your original purpose of managing ego threats. Ideally, the child function should be a counterbalancing force that addresses the blind spots and excesses of the parent function. Relying heavily on only two cognitive processes, hero-child, essentially means that you're only dealing with half of reality. The child function serves to enhance the relationship between the hero and parent functions, which results in greater maturity and wisdom in decision making. Whichever function falls into the third position is considered the relief role and will be a bit troublesome because we won't be able to count on this function as we do our top two functions. Psychologists suggest that we should get to know our child function in a relaxed, playful, recreational, and stress-free manner. Thus, it's called the relief function. This can be easier to do in youth with less stress, but can become harder the older and less playful we can tend to get. Our hero and parent can crush the child function if it isn't developed due to the child function not being able to emotionally handle things. Our child function creates miracles and is our miracle engine. It goes both ways for us and others when it comes to experiencing miraculous things from this function. So, just because it's in detriment, it does not mean that it is necessarily bad. Our child function has a connection to the divine or the highest of consciousness. It just needs a safe environment, recognition, and compliments. We want our child to be as optimistic and joyous as possible. If we want to get into the kingdom of heaven or as high in consciousness as you can, you have to be childlike in a curious and innocent way. This energy has lasting energy. Give the child function what it wants, but do it responsibly. You want to raise children, but let kids be kids. The hero function is important to the child and is the hero's number one fan. The parent function criticizes the hero and reins in the child. It takes a village to raise a child. It is a responsibility of the human race to understand people's cognitive functions so that we may get along better, have a better future, and actually encourage each other to produce miracles. Being childlike is divinity. The cognitive function is actually referred to as the divine child. There's a reason for that. It's optimistic. So we really need to not be childish, but childlike. So, we can really get triggered and childish when we trigger the child cognitive function within each other. I have a quotation here from Mark Hunziker, Depth Typology. So the eternal child tends to manifest in manic cycles. 1 minute, the king of the world, and the next, a withdrawn and timid, wounded child. Good integration of the child into the ego means allowing ourselves to be playful, silly, irresponsible, and vulnerable when appropriate and healthy. So the eternal child archetype is the eternal youth in all of us, the brilliant but volatile side of ourselves that is by turns the seemingly immortal prince or princess and the helplessly vulnerable wounded boy or girl. So James Hillman believes that the eternal child has a special relationship to the transcendent spiritual powers of the unconscious. And I need to actually move this photo. I'm sorry. I am editing for 1 second. I have another picture on here that is not moved with text. Oh, it is moved with text. I just added probably 3 more pages to this book today. Okay, so I got it. All right, so paralysis can overtake the eternal child function because it's hard to sustain the activity of this function. Beebe describes its up and down quality as inflation, deflation cycle, and as a third function crisis. The shadow form of this function is the trickster function, and it is this function that makes it hard to use our eternal child function. All right, so we have extroverted feeling trickster for Aquarians, and that is the social awkwardness. They're not really sure how they come across to people. They're not in tune with social norms, and they're socially awkward. So the trickster is extroverted feeling, and it can be a major problem, as well as introverted feeling. So I am going to now break down introverted feeling. What is introverted feeling? And I have another phone call, so I will be right back again. Okay, so now we're getting into introverted feeling psychologically, the cognitive function of introverted feeling. So what is introverted feeling? Introverted feeling represents morals, individual beliefs, and they actually do care what other people think. So it's a moral decision-making function. It's our personal good-bad judgments. It's a subjective values-oriented function, and it is the opposite of extroverted feeling or ethics. So Aquarians, they are very in tune with the collective conscious, and they're very humanitarian. And you would think that that's extroverted feeling ethics, because ethics, it's all about what the group holds in value. But with introverted, think about introversion going into self. It represents what we own, what our own morals are, what we believe. So it is on the extroverted feeling, extroverted thinking, introverted feeling axis. You're always going to find those two together. So introversion creates freedom through our own values, finds freedom within itself, but not expressive, so it tends to soak in depth. It's intensive, not extensive. My camera's crooked as all get out, but we're going with it. So FI also represents sympathy, not empathy. Extroverted feeling represents empathy, and then introverted feeling represents sympathy. Principles, weighing things out, pushes for closure, how I feel, how one feels, has emotional responses to data outside of them, morals, individual beliefs, knows how they feel, values, uses rationale, and redirects attention back to self. So introverted feeling users takes time to form emotional attachments with others, but when they do form emotional attachments, it is very deep. So Aquarians, they don't tend to open up to many people. They don't need very many people in their lives. I mean, they're introverted, so when they do form an attachment, emotional attachment to somebody, it's going to be very deep, and that's really all they need. That's where their loyalty can come in. FI users are all about figuring out who they are and what they want. It's about making good, bad decisions, not true, false decisions. FI understands their own morality and perhaps their own values better than extroverted feeling users. FI users make decisions based on their own internal world rather than what's going on with the group. This is where their independent pragmatic comes into play. FI needs space and time. I just got a notification. FI needs space and time to process, so they go deeper into their own internal world. With TE, they do tend to make decisions faster than high TI users. FETI bases decisions on the group's emotions and values. And they also tend to take time with their internal thinking, so it's a slower. So FETI users like Pisces or the INFJ, for example. So Pisces have the NI hero and extroverted sensing inferior, as well as just like Aquarians or INTJs do. But the difference between those two personalities is Aquarians have introverted feeling and extroverted thinking. So the extroverted thinking is going to make an Aquarian make decisions and communicate quicker than a Pisces, but Aquarians are still an introvert, and there are less introverts than extroverts, so people are going to be highly aware that it's going to take more time for an Aquarius to make a decision. So empathy can go across the board between FE and FI users. So it's not just, it's a spectrum. Always see things on a percentage scale. High FI users can put themselves in others' shoes. FE will connect with the emotional experiences others have in that specific moment in time, but perhaps not as in-depth as FI users, but will adapt to help. FI users tend to deeply experience the emotional realm, but they don't express it like extroverted feeling users. So extroverted feeling looks better in social interactions, when in all reality, introverted feeling, it's like extroverted feeling users are really, they're going to be better at the social dynamics, not as awkward, so it's going to look better. But high FE users, they're going to be like a yes man, or like playing all sides of the fence, for example. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. Aquarians, they're FI users, so they're going to look like they're more selfish or more direct and blunt. They're just holding to their own values and their own individuality a little bit better than in the emotional world or the emotional realm, better than FE. So, depends on how conscious the person is, really. So, FE looks fake to FI users, and in a way, it is inauthentic. So, FI users are being more authentic to themselves. So, FI users tend to not have as many issues with boundaries like extroverted feeling users due to being solid in their container within themselves emotionally. FI, or introverted feeling, evaluates and refines personal tastes, feelings, and values, champions individuality, emphasizing and defending the unique qualities of an individual. Shows concerns for life's underdogs, children, animals, and the elderly. They're going to say, I feel this is good or bad, or that's your truth. Tends to trust credentials. Yeah, Aquarians are really about gaining credentials, and they're going to trust that more, but they're still going to buck authority regardless. FI wants to feel the status. They really want to feel it, and it feels good. But status isn't exactly necessarily rooted in truth, but belief. Distances themselves from external, focuses on self more than extroverted feeling. All right, so introverted feeling within the 12 ego personality types. So Capricorn, or the ISTJs, and Aquarians, or the INTJs, have introverted feeling child. So I'm going to skip through all the others and zone in on the child cognitive function, the FI, or introverted feeling within the child cognitive function, which is Aquarius and Capricorn. All right, so the child cognitive function, we will use this function in a stress-free environment. We like to explore with it, and we tend to be more playful with this energy. We will hide it away when stressed and use the hero and parent cognitive function more, typically. So the cognitive attitude of the child: optimism, creativity, innocence, curious, boundless energy, and miracles. So it is an optimistic function. We have a lot of energy and inspiration here. We are less aware and cannot use the child in high stress situations, but when we do, miracles happen quickly. All right, so the quotation here, oops, I need to edit. FI, I'm childish with what I feel in our immaturity. So we can be very childlike, naive, playful. And we can tend to throw temper tantrums here. So you can also view the child cognitive function as a bratty child. So let's see, it can look like... All right, so this is where, you know, like Scorpios, I've realized the Scorpio or ENFPs, they have introverted feeling and extroverted thinking. And just like Scorpios, Aquariuses, like if they don't feel like doing something, like going to some event, some social thing, or just whatever the case may be, if they don't feel like it, they're not going to do it. It's a big thing. They can be seen as being moody even when they are actually very upset. So it can, it's like, it can come across as like being uncomfortable. And I know that has more to do with introverted sensing, but it's an emotional thing. Like if they're not comfortable and they have too much, if they're stuck in their anxiety in their head and the future and the planning, it's like, I don't feel like doing this. Is just too much stress. So other people can see Aquarians as being moody often. And this is where their procrastination can come in. Aquarians are finisher types, so once they start a project, they're going to see it through and finish it. But it's really hard to start something, so this is where the procrastination could come in, because they're also very perfectionistic, but it's like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. It can be a very huge problem when it comes to procrastinating on projects. And we do actually tend to project the child function onto others more. And they will recognize their child function in the hero or parent. So, like, let's see, who has, I can't remember right off the top of my head, hero and parent. So, Aquarians and Capricorns are going to see the introverted feeling cognitive function within the Leo and Scorpio. Oh my God, that's so hilarious. Scorpio. Yeah, I can totally see introverted feeling in Scorpios, especially. Like, I don't know that many Leos, but that's comical because it's like you'll ask them to do something and they're like, oh, I don't feel like it. I just want to lay around and do nothing today. All right. All right, so FI users, which are in the child position, which is Aquarius and Capricorn, they can go from playful to moody one day, and then the next, it's like, they can go from playful to moody. It's like kind of like mood swings to a degree. They need to develop the parent function in order to strengthen the child. They need to get along with others by noticing everyone around you can see what you are doing, and it is not necessarily the best. We can be blind to what we are doing here in the child function or not even care because we may want to do something else. So we need to hone in on the parent that pulls you out of that. So the why am I drawing a blank? I need to have my key card in front of me when I'm doing these videos. It's driving me insane. I'm going to go back up here. I didn't even write it in here, for God's sake. Where is it? Child. Okay, so TE, extroverted thinking, is going to pull us out of our... So the extroverted thinking is the systematizing, organizing, communicating with others what we are thinking, asking them questions about things. So if we're getting stuck in our introverted feeling, child moodiness, not wanting to do anything, we need to communicate with others and extrovert ourselves to get out of that introversion. All right, so yeah, this is where their stubbornness can come into. If they don't feel like doing it, they're not going to do it. And they will get moody about it. So INTJ, Aquarius has higher difficulty with new practical experiences, more stressed with physical things, and can have a high resistance to those things than others, not to say they're horrible at them. So Extroverted sensing inferior deals with the five senses and experiencing new things. Extroverting, going and doing things, getting out in public, going on a little adventure, short distance travel, long distance travel. There's a lot of preparation that Aquarians do before they do anything. Socially interact, going to Walmart, for example. It's like I have to have my list. I have to stay on point. I don't want to get distracted. It's a lot of planning ahead of time. And that's going to make them moody and anxious. Definitely. And it can make them procrastinate and less likely to jump into action. So Capricorns are more in tune with their body with high SI. They can pay more attention to cues in their physical bodies and have higher potential in body coordination skills. So Capricorns, they have a higher detailed memory, and Aquariuses will tend to have a vague memory and won't feel comfortable to paying attention to small details. They'd rather pay attention to the main idea and bigger picture. So Capricorns are going to be, they can be very lazy, but they can also be more in tune with their own health. Like, I have a boundary here because I'm tired and I'm not going to go to wherever this event is or whatever the case may be. Capricorns are going to be like, I'm not going to do this because of I'm tired. I need to take a break. Aquarians, it's like they're not as in tune with their physical body. That's why they can have a terrible sleep-wake cycle, bad eating patterns, swinging from extremes when it comes to dieting and whatever your health routines are. And so the moodiness comes into play when it's like they're not getting enough sleep, but then they, feel obligated to go do something. Their boundaries are different than Capricorn. But they both can be very stubborn and fixed and moody. So Aquarians, throwing this all together with the Sun and Detriment and introverted feeling in the child function. So the trickster here is FE. I'm unaware with what others feel. And the child function quotation is I'm childish with what I feel. So there can be a huge lack of awareness with social norm protocols. With Aquarians and other people, they will tend to follow someone else in the bathroom while they're taking a dump and not even realize that they're offending them. They will be taught. I'm like, I don't even know if I should say this here. Like, I had some air sign, really good friends, ENTP Libras, and they were all okay with like not following social norms and being I'm prissy, but in the same breath, like, I can be socially awkward. Like, when is a good time? Like, I'm not really aware of how people take me. Like, I've had people say that I'm, like, what do you call it? Like, I'm intimidating. Like, I just, like, when I'm walking, I go from point A to point B, and I'm like, I always look like I'm on a serious mission. And so people are like intimidated, and when someone stops me, they're like, oh, I didn't know if I should talk to you or not because you're just hustling and bustling. And I don't know. It's like, I just never really know how people take me and when's a good time to, social things are just awkward to me. Always will be. I'm an introvert. It's just a huge, I don't know. Yeah. Moral cause will make one study their ass off quickly, then be a master in a matter of weeks. So, yeah. I think Aquarians, they can really go down rabbit holes. Like, if, they can get involved with something. If you get them initiated into something or they initiate themselves into something. Like, I always root for the underdogs, and I have always wanted to have my own charity. Like, I'm very charitable, actually. I always tip really good. I'm always like realizing that, you know, people don't have it as good as me, and so I am very giving. I'm always rooting for the underdog. I've always cared highly about animals and children and, you know, the elderly. It's you need to respect your elders, and I'm so aware of that. And the younger generations, it's so sad. It's like, I am so concerned with our younger generations not respecting the elderly and not realizing what it's taken to get to where we are nowadays. And yeah, if an Aquarius lacks moral reason or cause, they can be very lazy. So it's like, I've just personally always been on a mission, whether that be fitness, nutrition, psychology, building my own businesses. I've been working on this for ages. Like, I've always had a goal. I've written many, many books. There's many books I haven't published and I never will publish, but you know, I can speak better on it with people in person because I've done so much studying. And like, I'm not trying to force a belief on somebody, but if they're open to the conversation, I love it. Like, I will talk, you know, at your level, but if you want to go there, I'll go there. They can be very childishly aware of how they feel and come off selfish. A lot of people can look at Aquarians like they're soulless machines or robots. It's like the Terminator, kind of. Like, Aries gets that same rap. The lackluster Venus signs can come across as soulless robots. The sun away, this that represents how one acts and sees things, what they're consciously aware of. Aquarians can't utilize expression and action, has to take structure with cold air. Aquarius they're an air sign, and they're come across as a cold air, so they're not as rapid when taking action on a cause. They can tend to do that, so it's very strategic. It's not tactical in the moment. They can take a while to act on something. Actions is more acting on mental thought, thinking, pre-thinking communication. There's no action without thought. Aquarius know what they're doing, but may look or act like they don't. Communicating with themselves a lot, creating some type of circumstance or situation, putting it in that mental box and prettying it up. They have fun in their heads. I talk out loud a lot to myself. I absolutely love my mind. I can just have conversations in my head all day and be totally fine with that. All right, so introverted feeling in Aquarius and Capricorn. When Aquarius and Capricorns begin to develop their introverted feeling, they begin to attend more closely to their personal feelings and values. They may develop stronger interest in music, poetry, or other forms of artistic expression. They may also begin looking for work that better embodies their values. They may, for instance, transition from for-profit to non-profit work, granting greater priority to their subjective values. Developing their introverted feeling also prompts them to engage in self-discovery. Friedrich Nietzsche. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I actually have his book back here. Oh, what book is it? The Philosophy of Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche. I have his book behind me. So often, people thought he was an INTJ. So Friedrich Nietzsche, often cast as an Aquarius or INTJ, was deeply concerned with self-discovery and self-actualization, as exemplified in his famous dictum, "Become who you are." So it is not uncommon for Capricorns and Aquariuses to be career-oriented as young adults. Once they hit their 30s or 40s, however, they are more apt to ask themselves what they, as individuals, really want to be doing. At this stage, they can appear similar. So at this stage, they often initiate their process of self-discovery. In tapping into their own subjectivity, they may also develop greater empathy for others' feelings. They begin to recognize and appreciate the merit of subjective concerns. They discover that truth does not merely reside at the level of universals, NI, or traditions, SI, but also in the felt experience of the individual. So they can take on more personable and humane quality interests, not only in ideas or principles, but also the unique lives of individuals. So the role of introverted feeling in Aquarius and Capricorn, it also contributes to their desire to act as moral change agents because of their unique functional trio of NI-TE-FI. Aquarius can make for the most prodigious of change agents and reformers. Their NI and FI work together to formulate a grand vision. Their TE specifies a plan for its implementation, and their FI supplies a personal desire to see it actualized. Their drive for change and reform may find roots in any number of fields, from politics to ministry to business to education. When stressed or when their introverted feeling is underdeveloped, they are prone to taking things personally. They may seem excessively sensitive, quick to overreact, and defend themselves. Yeah. Once you get an Aquarius in their defensive stage, it's hard to get out of it. Yeah. To ameliorate this hypersensitivity and defensiveness, it is important for them to become more aware of their introverted feelings, fears, and insecurities. So Aquariuses, they are strongly connected with their own emotions, which is different from extroverted feeling, which means you know how to deal with the emotions of others. So emotional intelligence can be developed, but they can also tend to suppress their emotions. So it seems like Aquarians are emotionless, but they can suppress them from others, their feelings from others. But they're in tune with their own feelings, but they suppress them a lot. Aquariuses are known for their neutral exterior, but that doesn't mean they're actually suppressing their feelings about a situation. So they're very stoic. Capricorns and Aquariuses are very stoic. They bottle up their emotions in a pretty little bottle. They label that bottle and put it on a shelf. And they store all these different emotions on a shelf in individual bottles. I think Aquariuses and Capricorns, they're very stoic, and they're not going to... They do not like drama, expressive. It's like expressing emotions in the moment seems so dramatic. And so they will analyze. It's like they're looking at their emotions from the outside and they're analyzing it logically. It's like, I'm very aware that emotions are like a cloud in the sky and they come and go, and not all emotions are valid. It can just be a childish sense of whatever, insecurity, pride, whatever the case may be. I've always been highly aware of that. It's like I'm sitting on top of it and looking at it and analyzing it and breaking it down. Like, should I express this or not? It's a very, very in the head thing with emotions for Aquarians. All right, so I also want to get into career paths for an INTJ or Aquarius. So when Aquarius develop an interest in something, they strive to become as knowledgeable and skilled as they can in that area. They have high expectations and hold themselves to the highest possible standards. Aquarians are good at gathering information from the outside world, analyzing it, and reaching new insights, as well as also comes into play with their own emotions. People with this personality type tend to be very analytical and logical. They value information, knowledge, and intelligence, making them excellent scientists and mathematicians. They also tend to do particularly well in fields that require efficiency and the ability to interpret complex information, such as engineering, law, and research. Aquarians typically do well in careers that integrate their strong ability to understand and evaluate complex information with their ability to put this knowledge into practice. So, popular Aquarian careers: scientist, mathematician, engineer, judge and lawyer, and teacher, perhaps. So Aquarians tend to be solitary and self-sufficient, so establishing friendships can sometimes be difficult. Because people with this personality type tend to think so much of the future, they may avoid getting to know people because they believe that a long-term friendship will not work out. The good news is that while Aquarius may not have a lot of friends, they do become very close and committed to those who persist. Aquarius tend to prefer friends who are also on the low emotional drama scale. Aquarians can be difficult to get to know. Romantic relationships with them can sometimes falter. If your partner has this personality type, it is important to know that loyalty and understanding are extremely important. So yes, it's very hard to get close to an Aquarius emotionally and on a deeper scale intellectually. Like, I don't know, I'll talk to anyone about anything, but I'm not going to make it personal. Like, I love talking about any topic, but in person, I kind of keep people at a distance. I really do. All right, I think that is really it on this section for now. Probably have another 2 hours of editing to do. So, make sure I didn't miss anything. They can be good at accounting, lawyers, deputies. They have a very high moral sense of justice. So, investigating, criminal investigation, police work could also be good for a career. They can tend to prejudge a lot. That is an issue. All right, I think that is it on this section for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Tell me what you think about it, how you feel about it, any experiences. Whatever. Comment. Feel free to comment, email. Check out my ebooks in the description below. And I will see you on the other side. Thank you so much for your love, support, and time.